So tonight's story, it's a little bit about abundance and lack of abundance. It starts with my father, first generation Greek, youngest of two for the psychologists in the audience. He was tall, he was slim, and he was very, very handsome. He was really, really a funny guy. Physical humor, situational humor, and he was really generous too. He was a bartender for many years. When a bartender had to have a following, it was important. He had to know who to introduce to who not to introduce to who. He had to know things like, where's the all-night poker game? His tall and handsome self attracted many, many women. His humor made everybody want to hang out with him. His generosity, well, he'd buy you a drink with his last dollar, and that was before he paid the rent. His bartender rule, never ever drink while working. And he never did, so that meant he had to go drinking after work. He also loved to gamble. He was a great guy to hang around with, but he was a lousy, lousy husband, and even a worse father. My mother, she tried to make the best of the situation. She was a working mom in the late 50s and 60s when a lot of moms didn't have to work. While many of the women stayed in failed marriages for the kids, my mom stayed in the failed marriage for the yayas. That's Greek for grandmothers. The yayas got along so well, she didn't want to separate them. They had, after all, come across the ocean on the boat from Greece. So my sister, she was 18 months older than me, the oldest sibling. She had that syndrome, very responsible. It was 1962. My dad acquired a snack shop, the Austinette Hamburgers Deluxe, Fountain Creations. It was a little gold mine. He bought a 1962 Cadillac, but he kept his nighttime job as a bartender at the Lamplight Inn. So from 62 to 67, he had a fancy car, he had his good looks, he had a business, a bar job, and he had a lot of women. I was 7 years old until 12 years old when this went on. His habits dictated our life, but I really didn't think very much about it. For example, I thought it was normal that my mom would wake us up at 1 in the morning, throw our coats on over our PJs, put us in the car, and take us to the bar. We would have to wait for my dad to get off work, so we would catch him before he went out and spent all the cash. My sister and I sat in the booth. She was a little crabby, and she somehow understood it was about money. But for me, it was all about my senses. I loved the big leather booth. I loved the red candles and the red-orange lights behind the bar. Red makes you want more. More sex, more food, more this, more that, go to Target. I loved the dark. And I loved the red grenadine in the orange juice, my own little kitty cocktail in a glass. My mom also had a line of credit for us that she had arranged so we could eat lunch. She was totally living on the whole borrowed from Peter to pay Paul. On Mondays, we went to Angus Burger. Tuesdays was Bunny's Hot Dogs. Fridays was Carl's Hot Dogs. Thursdays was Charette's. Just take any friend you want with you, my mom said. Order whatever you want and make sure to sign the check. I thought it was fun. I thought it was great to take my friend out to eat. I didn't feel like we didn't have money for lunch. There was the Greek school, too. Everyone in the neighborhood that was Greek went to Greek school. The Catholics went to catechism. The Jewish kids went to Hebrew school. My mom told us we didn't go to Greek school because she wanted us to be American. I didn't find out till 40 years later. It was really because we didn't have money. 1979. My father ends up partners in a 300-seat restaurant. He ran the 100-seat lounge with the piano bar. His partner ran the kitchen, the 200-seat dining room. My mom was 58 years old. She had just gotten a new job at the Board of Education. She was working Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, and then she'd go work at the restaurant from 5 to 11. She did this 5 days a week at the Board of Ed and 6 days a week at the restaurant. She did it for 3 years. I don't know how she did it. My dad was still good looking. He was now the owner of a big restaurant, driving a Lincoln. He started gambling, and again, he had a lot of women around him. He ended up losing the restaurant in a poker game. He was in way, way over his head. My sister was hurt and mad. My mother's response at 60 years old, having her 401k retirement plan, 3 years of work just crash. Her plan, she went out and bought herself a $10,000 full-length mink coat. Now, I belong to People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, but please understand my mother's generation. A mink coat, it meant something to her. The relatives, are you crazy? My yayas, is that crazy what your mother's doing? She's lost her mind. Your mother's lost her mind. My mother's response, I deserve this. It makes me feel good. I like how it feels. And if I feel good and I'm healthy, everything else is going to fall in place. I am not worried. My mom wore high heels, her mink coat, and she drove a Buick until she was 89 years old. She lived until 94 and a half. At 86 years old, my dad went to help his sister, who was sick. He stayed there for a week to help her, and when he wanted to come home, my mom said, no, don't come home. Just stay with your sister. The friends' responses? Hey, better late than never. She kicked him out. My sister became a court reporter at 21 years of age. At 64, she's still a court reporter. And she does real estate on the side. She's very generous, but she just pushes and pushes and pushes, and somehow I feel like she just doesn't believe there's ever enough. I never worried about money. During my 20s and 30s, I carried that childhood attention that I had, just feeding my senses. I loved the outdoors. I worked hard, I played harder, I bought cool clothes, I ate great food. I identified as a 3F kind of girl. Just feed me, fuck me, and take me to films, in that order. I was a bartender, it was a simpler time, and it was all about senses for me. I loved eating popcorn in the dark. I was living in the moment with no thoughts of the future. At 42, I started a business. It ran from 97 till 2010. Money just came to me effortlessly. I don't mean I didn't work hard. I did work hard. I worked a lot, but I never went on a sales call. The clients just came to me. I loved it. I loved giving good service. I loved people. Today, not so much. And I paid everybody more than my competitors paid. So I never really worried about anything. Everything was just rolling until 2010. By 2010, I was 55 years old. I had already survived the end of a 12-year relationship and all the dreams that went with that, a betrayal, an internal theft, 1 year of treatment for a serious health issue. I was exhausted. My dad died that year, owing me $1,500 that he had borrowed. I knew he had to be desperate to ask me for it. Fear and scarcity crept in. I spun around for 4 years. I counted every single dollar bill. I ate oatmeal for breakfast. I ate pasta for dinner. Friends fed me. I started holding on to things. I started believing maybe I wouldn't get this. I need to hang on to this in case I can't get it again. This past December, I was laid off from 2 of my 4 part-time jobs. 70% of my income went away on December 20th. My friends said, what are you going to do? My sister started texting me ideas of where I could get part-time jobs. I thought of my childhood energy. I thought about my mom and her mink. I remembered how her whole body language changed when she bought that mink. She just, like, her confidence level just went so high. I decided I needed to feel good and that I deserved a vacation, that I just needed to feel the sun on my face. I needed to hear the water and the birds. So I took myself on vacation on my credit card, and I told a friend, if you can get there, I'll pay for everything. I just want to share. I just want to spend money. I just want to feel good. While I was on the beach, I got a phone call, and I got 2 job offers. You know what? My body language has changed. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling like there's no scarcity. I'll just land on my feet. And at 63, better late than never that I should feel like this. Thank you.